So I missed it, Erica. Why did you go to Texas, or why?
My family's here, so I moved back to them, and job opportunities are there more of them.
Okay. So we'll wait for a couple more people to join in. Let's see. Give one more minute, then we'll start. Okay. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and start. As people join in, of course, we will admit them and everything will still be flowing. Okay, so welcome everybody to tonight's Tuesday Night Live. Today is June 9th, and we're going to hit on some more pertinent topics, kind of an extension on last week's. If you attended last week's, we've been talking more about, current societal events, things of that nature. So tonight, before we dive in, I wanted to give kind of a JMU Black History fact that maybe not everybody knows. So starting off, in 1964, 6 African-American students enrolled at Harrisonburg High School, integrating the school. One of those students, Sherry Darkus Johnson, would go on to become the first Black graduate of JMU, then Madison College, in 1970. And she also earned her master's from JMU in 1974, which makes her a double Duke. But following her time at JMU, she went on to earn her EDD, which is an educational doctorate from University of Virginia. And she eventually joined the faculty of the College of Education at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. When speaking of her experience, she says, and I quote, "If I were to choose again, I'd choose Madison," of course, referring to JMU. If you want to hear more about her story, I'm attaching a link in the comment section. There's a whole article about her, there's a video, and it's very interesting, and I think it's a pertinent a part of JMU history that not everyone knows, and I think that everyone should. So now I'm going to move it over to Dion, and he's going to introduce himself for tonight.
Thank you for the fact, first of all. And like she said, my name is Dion. I don't necessarily have a lot of stuff to introduce since I'm a graduate now. So I'm just me now, right? But I feel like Aaliyah and Erica, they have a lot more to add to their title, so I'll let them speak.
Not really even. I'm just Errol, and I just graduated 2020. I'm currently in Texas, so yeah, over to you.
And hi, I am Aaliyah. I use the pronoun she, her, hers. I'm a recent JMU grad as well. And yeah, we're really just big on just community civic and international engagement. I'm really here to be glad to continue this conversation with you all today.
And Aaliyah, what's your new job?
Well, I do have a new job, but I have 2 technically. So which one? Because I have 2 technically, but I guess my main really big job now at JMU is a Woodson Martin Democracy Fellow in the Center of Civic Engagement, and that is what I'll be doing for the entire school year. So really focusing on marginalized communities. We have a really big election coming up, so there's a lot of work to be done. And then I'm really glad that my favorite person, Dr. Miller, also is letting me work with him this summer as a special assistant. So it's kind of fancy and cool too.
Yay!
Well,
So now we're going to cut it over to whenever she is ready. Erica is going to be speaking on some interesting matters. So take it away, Erica, whenever you are ready.
Yes, hopefully y'all can hear me clearly. I know it's have technical difficulties. So I just wanted to like touch on some pieces of like being black at JMU and how it seems that we're not always supported. And that will kind of be like what we're touching on. So one of like my first things I want to talk about was like who all actually goes to like football games and like basketball games and just other like sports and athletic programs at JMU. And if you look at the players, it is predominantly black, and it's always like we these black athletes do a lot for JMU. They create revenue, create money, and like tuition goes to these fields and everything for the sports. It's just like, what are we going to do for these students? Also, when it comes to like the counseling center, there's not much representation through for us there. So personally, like, I could go there and talk to someone is someone who doesn't understand. You always kind of have to go out of the way to actually find someone like off campus want to talk and also some parent as well. Sometimes it's like we go to like JMU, we also don't feel supported by JMU through like all the time. And I know Aaliyah will probably touch on this like later, how like seems a lot, but we can't just always put it on seamless. I feel like there's a lot that can be done in the community. I also feel like this conversation should not stop here. This is only the beginning. I wish the campus was open actually, so more students could hear this and more people can like be aware of this situation later on whenever school is like starting again. Another thing I wanted to touch base on was kind of like they like in ed. There's not many classes that focus on diversity and inclusion. One class I took ARD 1 to 3, and the class was amazing. It brought me to this position I am in when I was working with, and it drove passion, but not many people in that class, and not also like it's always predominantly black, honestly, and we're always doing work on kids to promote diversity. So I think that if the class was, mandatory and for every student to take, like, so to like also make a difference as well.
Yeah, I think you, just to recap, I guess what Erica was saying, I think she brings up really good points, starting with student athletes, particularly at JMU. I know we talked about this even in the NCAA in general. A lot of times, or even if it's a college that's not in the NCAA, there's also NAIA and there's also junior college and things of that nature. Just the way that Black students are kind of profited off of, like the universities and the schools, it's very, like they make a lot of profit off of mostly Black students in terms of like their athletics, but how are these students being treated while they're here or while they're at wherever institution? I know at my undergrad back in Texas, there's this big kind of scandal going on right now because not just two, well, it started with one men's basketball player. He tweeted how him and some of his teammates, his Black teammates, were treated at practice, and it threw me totally off guard because that wasn't something that I like expected. Coming from our men's basketball program at my undergrad. My undergrad is in Texas. I am a grad student, if you don't know, here at JMU. So, yeah, and we have such a, such a very established and very kind of like a good legacy in terms of our basketball program. So when that hit, it just kind of took me by surprise. I don't know, Dion or Aaliyah or anyone else, anything you've heard or any perspectives you can have from being a student at JMU and maybe even interacting with any student athletes here?
Yes, I know me and my I know me and my roommates were talking about this. So both my roommates were cheerleaders. But one in particular, we were kind of just like diving into this like support. But we were saying it's really unique how even like in terms of like a social promotion or kind of that support that like you always see the crowds fill up for football games and things like that. But when is it when the Black athletes need your support or need your help or need more about their race and identity, where like Black athletes have so much pressure put on them because for some Black athletes, like this is what they believe is their way out, you know, and it's unfortunate that like they weigh all of this in this one decision and the people that are kind of profiting off of them aren't really supporting them in ways like right now they need to be supported. And so a lot of times, even at JMU, like when athletes come, they're not able to actually participate in 1787. So they're kind of immersed into their athletic culture right away, but they kind of miss out on their culture to kind of get to know other students and new people or people that have the same diversity as them. And so it's really interesting when times like this happen. It's like, where are you and how are you showing up for them? Because you're so quick to show up to a game, you're so quick to profit off of them, but where are we now when they really need us the most?
I think that's well said. I can speak from my experience. I actually lived with one of the football players during my like junior year. We were in Chandler together, D'Angelo Amos. We go back, but yeah, he spent all of his time in training, in practice, barely having much time to have a social life. So I wonder what resources are being offered to them or what extra care is being given to them right now, because I couldn't imagine going out to a field and listening to my white coach tell me anything right now, at least not without him addressing how he feels about the current situation in the world and where he stands on it. And I kind of, want to further what Erica was talking about and say, what would proper resources look like, or what would be an example of a good resource for somebody in that situation right now? And does it have to be furthering it a little bit more? You were going to the counseling centers. What does it look like to have a representative who understands? Does it have to be somebody who's Black? Or can it be somebody outside of the diaspora who learns to understand? I just want to know some thoughts.
Yeah, I know. I guess for me personally, when I was an undergrad, I started going to the counseling center, and my first counselor there, she was white. She was actually a PhD student, and so I was kind of like, she was temporary there because she was getting her degree, and so as like things were happening in the world, and I would like talk about it with her, in terms of like, just police brutality and just things of that nature. I would talk about it and she would eventually say like, do you feel comfortable? Like, would you want a Black counselor? And I was just like, yeah, I mean, that's great with me. Yeah. I was like, might as well. I'd never had a Black counselor before. And so when I started going to Dr. Moore, her name was Pamela Moore, it was something that was so beneficial to me personally, just being able to connect in that way. So I definitely think that representation in terms of the mental health sphere of life is really important, especially I know sometimes in certain communities and communities of color, but in particular with the Black community, it's often something that we don't talk about, mental health. So I think that, I haven't been to the counseling center here, but I definitely think it's very important to have representation in those spaces. I don't know. What else do y'all think?
Yeah. I mean, I've actually been to the counseling center here, and I can vouch and say that I felt good for why I went. It wasn't necessarily like a race or cultural identity issue, but I did feel heard. However, I have a hard time thinking that somebody who is white really would understand what I'm talking about when I start getting into the why of why I think what I do. Earlier, we were talking about the systematic way that our country has made Black men look a certain way and has made Black women look a certain way. And that kind of, it sticks with you from birth until now. And that's, I don't want to say that we need more. Well, no, I do want to say that we need more Black people. We do, but it doesn't always seem like it's the answer. I'm probing for something different because I know we're talking to an audience that isn't Black. We're talking to a lot of predominantly white folks. So, you know what I'm saying, Aaliyah?
Yeah, I was actually gonna like, you really had me thinking. I had to mute myself because my mom is upstairs like yelling. Oh my gosh. But even like within that, so I actually as well went to the counseling center, Dion. But I did go for a race and identity. Well, I didn't really know that's where I was going, but as the year went on, I kind of realized like that's kind of one of my key focuses. And it's really nice because my therapist, I kind of Googled her. She's amazing. I love her. But one of her, I guess, like strengths or focuses is race and identity. But she is a white woman. And so now that I'm graduated, I'm trying to find more therapists and I'm looking into it. And literally, Harrisonburg has not, like, literally cannot find a Black woman therapist. So then I'm kind of still getting a white woman. Okay. But it's like what you're saying. It's like this is such a deeper issue. Like, and this is where like the root causes come in. It's like, where are the Black therapists? Why don't we have them? And so it kind of even looks into education. Who is getting this education and who is not able to? So like this is when access, I really feel like, plays in a part. When you go to your classes, I mean, we go to PWI, but this is an overall thing. There's just more white degrees and minorities getting degrees in these areas. And it's even on us, like, why is this? And it's just that systematic barrier that is created in our like culture and society that we've just normalized over time. Like you're saying, like, you know, like it is a bigger issue and there's such a problem with it. Is like we don't really notice because we're so used to just seeing white professors, white doctors, white orthodontists. You know what I mean? You just see just white professions more than Black people in those professions. And I think we never question the why in that. And it's not our fault at all. It literally is because we're not getting this access to do these things.
It kind of throws me off whenever I see a Black professional and like a blue collar job. You know, they talk about like blue, white collar. I don't necessarily know that I know it, you know, to its fullest extent, but I think of it's the blue collar, like the doctors type things. Whatever positions you think of when you think of like, people who have power, I don't think of Black people.
I mean, even to our day, look at our presidents. We've only had one Black president, and we still haven't had one Black female president. You know, so even like look into terms of history, it's like you're not seeing yourself, and when you're not seeing yourself, it is hard to imagine yourself there because you're like, can I even get there? You know, and I feel like that's when it's on us as a society to then create these create programs, create things, appoint women in cabinets, appoint African Americans in certain positions so they're able to get there. Because right now we can't keep just being content with just okay, well, I hired the Black person, I'm good, I met my quota. You know, like put them in leadership. And if you don't think they're ready for leadership, train them, teach them, because we're not getting the same thing that you're getting clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Erica, have you heard anything from any of your friends or any classmates?
Yeah, so many students have actually reached out to me, and like a lot of people have been recently upset about multiple things, not just like the regular like everything that's going on right now, but like also just on campus. Like this is nothing new to us, and the only reason this conversation is even brought up is because we keep hounding people about it. We won't stop talking about it. And like imagine if we didn't say anything at all like about JMU not saying something. I honestly feel like JMU would have never even made a statement, because this isn't the first time that this has happened. Um it's very tiring. It's always like I personally feel bad for the students on campus that like, will go back next year sometimes, because it's like, where is the space for them? And CMS cannot be the only space for them that they feel welcome. And that's why I've been pressuring really hard about this diversity and oh my gosh, my words, diversity and inclusion class, because it's just so important for people to be educated on this topic. And I think like systematic like oppression and racism is so real, and it's like we even ourselves as like Black people, we also like have supported it in different ways and everything. And people just need to realize that, because the only time anything about the diversity comes up on our campus is if we're trying to get a rating, and then Seamus is like in front of it, and I'm like, what, like 5% most diverse campus, or what, like with top 5 or whatever, most diverse campus. Also, like when it comes to 1787, you know, like the freshman orientation week, the only thing they get is that Me Too JMU program that we put on through CMIS again, and it's one day, and it's usually also shallow diversity as well. And then that's it. After that, like they go back to like their bubble like world and life. That everything is normal, but like it's so much more. And like honestly, CMIS and Deep and just Black people in general can only do so much on this campus. After a while, it does get tiring. Like even now, like coming on here to like today, like I'm always talking about this topic 24/7 and everything I do. And like as much as I love educating people, like it gets tiring. And it's like us saying the same thing over and over again. Aaliyah and like Dion's position on campus is so important, but like they're always looked at as like the token Black people on this campus in leadership and to get things done. And it shouldn't be like that. It should honestly be a collective, and we should look at other admin, other students, and other faculty to like come together and make changes not only on campus but in Harrisonburg as well. Like going out into the community is so diverse, like more than you would expect. I was a big brothers, big sisters, and I'm just like, wow, this is not what I knew Harrisonburg for. It's just like JMU is its own bubble, and the students there are in their own world. I just wish they knew more than what they even know now. So
Yeah.
So I I think you ask a lot of good questions about the administration, Erica, and I also think it's really cool that we have some administration on the call. So I kind of want to hear what they would have to say, maybe from like Dr. Miller or anybody else, any other faculty watching. Like, how do you react to what Erica's saying? Any part of it, all of it?
Yeah, well, thanks for being here again, 2 weeks in a row for Dion and Aaliyah and Erica for the first week. I think, I mean, I've said this in lots of different groups that I think there's a lot of work left to be done, and we can't settle for, well, it's good. Good isn't good enough anymore. We were on a discussion last week, and one of the things that I said that I actually disagree with myself a little bit now was we were asked about how do you make sure you include diverse voices in conversations. And one of the things that I said was that we need to make our tables bigger. And I think that is true, but I also think we need to remove some of the people that are at the table. I think it's sort of a both and reality that people that want to do nothing but maintain what is are just maintaining their own lives and their own sort of comfort and ease. And that just can't be what we accept anymore. I think that a couple of just very tangible things. One, I think the counseling center is a great conversation. The counseling center staff made a really interesting change last year. They used to make decisions on who they sort of asked to go off campus based on length of time someone was going to need help and things of that nature. But what we found, going off what Aaliyah said, is we actually, while not as diverse as they want it to be, a more diverse counseling center staff than there is in the community. So we actually have people that are from multiple communities. And again, I'm not saying counseling centers got it all figured out, but what I'm saying is they've changed their model. So now they're actually keeping students on campus for counseling on campus from diverse backgrounds because they have a better chance of getting someone to work with in our counseling center than they do in the community. So that was a change that they made. Also with the orientation comment, I remember at the town hall right after I got here, the first fall I was here, we were asked about having a more diverse orientation staff. And to be honest, I think people got lots of words that weren't a strong answer. The answer is, yeah, we have to do better at that. I love the orientation team. I think they do great work. But I think in all the areas of the university, we have to do better. And we have to, again, not only bring more people to the table and make the table bigger, but we also have to tell people that if they're not on board, then maybe this isn't the right table for you. If your sole purpose is to maintain the table the way it is, this can no longer be your table. Sorry, I'm really running with the table thing. And then just to be honest, there are a number of things that we'll be adding. Not all of them are known yet, but I'll be sharing these in the next few days to support CMIS more and to support diversity, equity, and inclusion. The one thing I will share, so all of you know, because the staff does know this, is that we were just approved to fill our AVP for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That position was frozen when all the budget stuff happened, but that got signed off on a few days ago. I don't even think I've told Aaliyah this yet, but she's on the search committee for us to review applications. Staff from CMIS will be a part of that. And then other students will involve students in the search process too. But we have 59 amazing candidates from across the country. And we're going to bring a game changer to JMU. All of our applicants are external. So we'll be bringing someone that brings a totally new approach and view about this work to JMU, and my plan is to get it done by the fall. So we will have a new person in a senior leadership level on my leadership team reporting directly to me that will be leading diversity, equity, and inclusion on this campus from the student affairs perspective. And then, Erica, correct, I thought it was We Are JMU, not Me Too JMU, right?
Yeah, sorry. My head space. I'm reading so much. Yeah. I was like, I forgot the word. I was like, I did the program myself, was in it, did it, forgot all about it. Sorry.
Sage. I can't say anything yet because I'm not there yet, but I think that program needs to be part of orientation, not part of the weeks of welcome. That was a shift that we're making this year because orientation 1787 got shorter. I think we have an opportunity there that I want to address, and I want to make sure that it is a priority for every student to sit in a intentional, thoughtful conversation about all, I don't want to call them issues, because I remember I have a really good friend who said, you can't call race an issue because I'm not an issue. I'm who I am. So it's not an issue, it's a part of our community. And it's, someone else said on the other, I can't remember who it was, said on a conversation last week that race is not an add-on. Diversity is not an add-on. It can't be a +1 on a 3-credit class. It is us. It is who we need to be. It is when we are our best selves. That's when it's part of the conversation. So, sorry, I talked for too long there, but I think you're going to see a number of things that will change. I'm committed to it. I was committed to it from the day I got here, and we'll continue to make change, not just in CMIS, but in the culture as a whole. And I'm happy and willing to commit to that to you all now on video and recorded and Facebook and the whole deal, that there is change to be made and it will be made.
Awesome. I'm excited. I wish I can come back, but homecoming, I'll be there.
Meet the new AVP when you're here.
Yeah, I will.
I kind of want to push back on that because I love a lot of what you said. If you don't have thoughts, change. Yes. Oh yeah. Drop stuff in the comments. We're definitely open to hearing stuff in the chat. I want to go. I think you left off on a great point about change kind of having to happen. What do you say to students right now, Black students, students of color, both of those things, because they're two separate things, talking about both of them right now. What do you say for those students who are in classes that their professors aren't talking about what's happening right now? Do you think that there's more of a question for them? Do you think that right now there is a separation between being professional and talking about what's happening in the world? And I'll give more specific context. I work, down the street at Tropical Smoothie right now. And I went into work and nobody was talking about what's going on, right? It was fun. I had a good time at work, but it's like, this is on my heart. This is what I have to live with day in and day out. I go down the street and I am sort of fearful, like, okay, could somebody be on some BS today? I'm going a little over 35, but that shouldn't be enough to take me out and put me in cuffs. What do you say to that, Dr. Miller? Are you having conversations about what's happening in the world every day right now, in your life?
Yes. I can't think of a day that has gone by. I literally am like, let me go back to my calendar. There's not been a day. Let me go back a step. I was on vacation 2 weeks ago. And this sort of was part of the life, even on vacation. I said this somewhere else, but I didn't, on purpose, I never turned the TV on the whole week on vacation, but I still knew everything that was going on. from emails I was getting, from social media. And I will tell you, on vacation from Monday, Memorial Day, Monday on, there was not a day that went by that we weren't talking about this in some form. Multiple the top leadership, members of the staff, either on video, live, or email. This conversation has been needed, and it has now started, and now it's important that we don't get tired of it. And I can only imagine what it's like for those that have to be in the conversations and are living this life of, not only are you working on it, but you're living it. But those of us, and I've said this lots of times in other places, with great privilege comes great responsibility. It's my job as a person of great privilege and great authority in this institution to not say, wow, I'm glad that's over. This can't be over. Like, this is life now. And it's been life the whole time for too many people, for those of us in positions of authority and power to sort of wait till it's over. This has to remain embedded. And I think I have to have the people around me feel empowered to say, you can't move on from this if I do. If I sort of stop and lose my focus, I need people to remind me that we need to do this and stay with this and stay with our students, especially our Black students, faculty, and staff who have been marginalized throughout the life. And we've got to do something about that. So I feel like that's really big and broad. But I think that if I do this right on my side, you will see tangibles and feel intangibles from now on. And that's what we've got to commit to do. Is it can't just be the stuff that looks really good. If it's performative and that's all you get is performative, we don't deserve these jobs anymore. We've got to go past that.
I also wanted to touch on, I don't know who else was on the call besides Dr. Tim Miller, but just when it comes to professors and how they teach as well, I've actually, if I'm really thinking about it, I don't think many of my professors that I used to have would have touched on this situation. Say we were in session, maybe only 2 or 3 of them might have maybe, but it's just when it comes to these issues and systemic oppression, racism, sexism, just down the line of diversity and inclusion, it's just how can this be, I guess, mixed in with how professors teach, especially when racism is in every aspect of our lives when it comes to our academics and like being on campus, that affects how we go on with their day, just by one situation. Someone can make some type of comment, and that just ruins someone's day and everything. So that can ruin their academics. Is just having that support system, but also how can professors get, I guess are there classes, I guess I'm trying to ask, are there classes for these teachers and professors and other faculty and staff on this topic? Because I also just feel none of them actually know, besides maybe a handful of them.
Yeah, and I don't think we have any faculty on this call, so let me say a little bit, but then also, without sounding like too much of an advertisement, join us Thursday, 4 o'clock, for a student forum with the provost, myself, and Siobhan Moore will be the 3 hosts of Thursday's gathering. The provost will be on that call as one of the hosts, and I think that I don't want to speak for her because I also can't, because I don't know all the things they do. So at some level, I would say please join us for that, so you have that chance to ask the provost. I know that there are different training things they do for new faculty, but I honestly just don't know the answer. So I apologize. I just don't have that.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah.
I only teach a one 3-credit course, and so yeah. So Thursday at 4 p.m. the provost and I will be there, so that we can talk through that and answer your questions, especially around faculty training, faculty education, things of that nature. But I apologize, I don't know the answer.
Oh no, it's fine. Thank you though.
Tim, if I could just kind of interject a little bit. This is Monette, and there are several conferences, professional development conferences that faculty and staff are welcome to attend, that are and in the past have been very helpful. One of them is actually NCORE, So, I don't know, to answer your question, how many faculty actually take advantage of that opportunity. Of course, that all depends on budget and, again, how intermixed, or the priority, I should say, of diversity is within the spectrum of the different colleges and or the majors. So, and that's where I think we get back into the conversation of the top-down effect. That type of change has to come from the top.
I talked to the provost today, and I think Norman's on here too. But Norman and I actually got to talk to the provost today, and kind of like what Monette's talking about. Erica, you too. And so basically we basically asked about this faculty training, what is there? And she actually was so informative. And if you don't know, Provost Coltman, she's really amazing. This is her 3rd year at JMU. So just like Dr. Miller, she's fairly new. And so for her, she was just saying she really wants different policies, and she really wants different things in place for faculty. But she was saying now they're at this point where we're trying to hire this diverse group of people, because if you look around, it really isn't diverse. And so she was saying that now they have different practices and policies where certain hirings go straight from them, and they look around in the pool to make sure people are diverse. And now there's a diverse there's a JMU diversity statement where on the job applications for academic affairs, it's in the middle of the application so people understand these things. But what was really interesting was she was saying, because I brought up HRD 123 being a gen ed course for first years, and she was really saying she loves the idea and she really wants something like that, but she was saying that it's hard to for faculty, they have academic freedom. So you don't know if the faculty is going to be teaching the same thing in each course. So you can have this course, but it might be different in every course. And so it was really interesting to hear that perspective, because it's such a top-down approach though, because it's and we're about to talk about it in a second, but all these things are so institutionalized, and change just has to happen there, because though you think it's so easy and simple, which it kind of is in my opinion, but it's it has to go through so many different things and department and structures that we put in place. And so it's really interesting. But in terms of conferences, if anyone wants to educate themselves during quarantine, next week, American, which is a really great university, is having a summer institute. They do it every summer, and it's the education department. And this year is uplifting women and girls of color through anti-racist academic practice and policy. And it is so amazing. The conference just is so amazing. It talks about anti-racist policies for your classrooms and teaching higher education. And so Sierra dropped the link in there. But I think if you can go, honestly, just drop into a session or two, because what Monette's saying, it has to be you have to self-work, and you have to do these things on your own to educate yourself to kind of be this person to really be inclusive.
May I ask a question of the students?
Shoot.
Okay. And I kind of just want to really have those that are here sort of think about it. Because the difference that I have seen in the community of Black and Brown students from the late 80s, early 90s, which is when I attended JMU, to now, is that the community is very dispersed. And I really cannot, I've not, and I won't say I can't, because I think some of it I understand, but I'm challenged with trying to figure out, what is it? What creates that? Is it because students feel like when they get there, they have to be the do all to everything? Or is it the whole achievement factor? Is that challenging? Because back in the day, and granted, we were smaller, we had, we were at 10% Black and Brown students on campus. Everyone was, pretty much everyone were leaders. student athletes were also involved in organizations. They were heading organizations. They were, they were present. I even don't see that except for the select few. So I'm trying to understand, what is it that students are really, what are you looking for when you come to JMU as a Black, brown student, knowing that you're coming to a historically white institution?
Sorry, I don't know if it was on talk, but personally, I'll just go back off my experience. Like, first coming to JMU in general, I met Aaliyah, haha, and we literally did everything just to like get involved. And I really personally just think that whenever you come to like this college in particular, or wherever you go, just finding a place where you belong. And personally, like I think someone said it earlier, it's just like when it comes to like athletes, they're just like immersed into like their athlete world, and they personally like their time schedules are not the same as everyone else's. I'll just be honest. They also can't do as much. Like I have a friend, she's an athlete, and she was like, man, I wish I could join all these orgs, but like her track schedule and like other stuff like that just wasn't like, it couldn't work like that. And I also know for like other sports too, it's just with their schedules with that, it doesn't work like every other student's schedule. Personally, I don't really know. I do see how it is dispersed, but I just think some people want to hang out with who they kind of want to hang out with. And like, I love CMUS, don't get me wrong, but it is still like very small, and you see the same people every time you like walk in and everything. And it like, granted, I wish they could have their own building. That'd be amazing. But like, the space is so small, and I feel like people want more space or just more freedom to kind of just do what they want. So I feel like the community is still like strong together. We just are like in different like groups and areas doing like our work and like doing what they like enjoy personally. I don't know. It's like a hard question because it's like more of like a personal like from my experience question. But like I do see what you're saying, because like I also hear from other alums saying like, oh yeah, back in the day, like we used to always be together. And I feel like our percentage is low, but our like university has also grown as well. So it's just like different, and like how the community, how Jamie's also laid out is like very different. So everyone kind of has their groups, but at the end of the day, most of us still like come back together majority of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I?
Which is good, because down the road, once you leave JMU, I think that what you experience is that you realize the Black, brown community sort of opens up even more, in addition to the JMU community as a whole. So it's almost like if we could converge that into campus to some degree, we could possibly put ourselves in a better place. And I, my daughter will probably kill me for kind of telling this story, but her first semester there, she really struggled, because she grew up in a predominantly white K through 12 experience. And so her natural connection was to gravitate towards that particular community. I then, as the parent who had a totally different JMU experience, was like, okay, what is this? Why, you having some kind of identity crisis? Is JMU not the right fit for you? Which is fine, but I know a HBCU is not right for you. So, it's a matter of being able to find that middle ground. And also, our students need to be very honest, even when they go back into their communities, and not though the numbers may be low, to really talk about the JMU experience and the growth that you get from the university as a whole. And I don't know that we do a very good job with empowering our Black and Brown students, as well as, well, I think the majority gets empowered, but I don't think we do a good job because it's not just in our nature to come in feeling comfortable asking a lot of questions or standing up and advocating for ourselves. That's something that you have to learn to do over time. I mean, it's taken me a long time. Dr. Miller and I had that conversation offline, but I think that's just innate in us. And then also, having to do with the systemic issues that we have kind of inherited over time. So.
Yes, I'm always talking. I'm sorry. I agree. Like coming to JMU, we literally had to create our own space. Aaliyah again, woman of color. We have a history. Yeah, we created woman of color with Jasmine. She is amazing. I love her. But yeah, it's just we had to create our own space for other women, and that organization is still like, growing and thriving in numbers till this day. It's like I said earlier, we're always doing the work for our own community all the time, creating the spaces and everything. I guess it does like come a time where we will and would need help from JMU as a whole, so everyone can feel welcome. But I guess at the moment and like in this time, it's always us creating the spaces for people who are, and also who want to come into these spaces. Like our first semester on campus, it was like 100, like almost 100 girls, and it's like I know there's more out there, but it's also with what they're like comfortable with as well. So.
And Dion, you go because you have been waiting.
Hey, I'm trying to let y'all speak. I'm listening. So, all right, time to take it. I want to attack it a little bit from my like academic standpoint, organizational communication, and say that when we're coming to a predominantly white institution, right? But we're not coming to it just as students. We're Black students. So on top of trying to find your place on campus, and in finding your place on campus, our racial identity is always linked to that, right? So it's like going to that dispersion you're seeing among Black students on campus. It's like you're a certain type of Black person and you fit into a certain area. Like I know I've definitely said it, like Black people in fraternity and sororities, depending on where they are different to me. I've looked at them differently. I've thought very differently about them. You always see the same active Black people at events, and the ones who don't care don't show up. It's like, I know personally, I came to JMU saying I wanted to see how another culture lived. That didn't mean I was leaving my Blackness at home. It actually forced me to dig into that more, because before I was too white for the Blacks. And at some points here, I was too Black for the whites. So it's like, what exactly is it about me that's Black and what's not? And I think when you start trying to find your place on campus, you also start seeing how Black you are in terms of society, right? But if we were in a different context, like if I was back home, even though I'm not, a certain type of Black person, I'm still accepted for who I am. Here, if I'm not a certain type of student, if I'm not the right type of Black, and I'm not doing anything, that's getting my name out there or making me known, that's 3 strikes against me. I'm either with the active Black people, I'm not, and I'm with white people, or I'm by myself. That's how I see it.
That's good. And like y'all time I had like going because I was thinking of ideas and stuff. But one yet I know you kind of said at first, like how can we kind of bring the Black and brown students here? And I think for me, so I kind of told everyone last week, I wanted to go to VCU, decided to come to JMU after Prospective Students Weekend, but really that main figure, and that was Miss Moniette Martin. This lady truthfully was a trailblazer in bringing me to JMU. She put me in her car. I said, do not take me to that school. She did it anyways, and she kind of did make me fall in love with it. And so truthfully, we need more people like that. And I think this is where Erica keeps talking about, it has to be systematic. You know, like Moniette, if y'all know her, I know her so personally. This lady grinds all day and night. My phone be blowing up at 4 a.m. with ideas and stuff. And I'd be like, love you, but stop texting me. But like literally though, like she is so passionate about it and everyone has to be on the same wavelength. It can't just be Moniette doing it because she's passionate about it, but like it has to be institutionalized, a support of that where other students can say, oh, I came here because my mentor, because it's connected to the Alumni Association. You know, it's like literally so systematic that it's sustainable. And so that's just like the first point of like, we just need people more like Moniette, and that just means they need to be supported more because she does it for free. Like literally just drove me there with her own gas, did not know her. And then people probably saw me laughing, but the reason I was laughing because I just kept looking at Erica is that story about Jasmine is so true. So actually it was Jasmine, which is her daughter. Yeah, I guess, I mean, she kind of said it, but her daughter's roommate. And literally, Erica was there with me my first year. Me and Jasmine did not get along, though, because we came from two different spectrums. For me, in my Black experience, it was different from Jasmine's Black experience. But it doesn't mean, like Dion saying, that hers is any different from mine, right? Or that she's less of a Black person because we don't have the same experience. And I think Norman like kind of just pointed to it. That's like kind of when I think it's on us to kind of feel like there is not Black students, that you're dispersed around campus, though, for a great cause. Because I think if you are dispersed, that means you see yourself wherever you go. Where now you only see yourself if you go to CMIS. And then you might see a few Black student ambassadors, but you know it's only a few. And then you might see a few Black people in SJ, but it's only the 3. You know what I mean? And so I think that is the point, though. Eventually, I think you do want to be dispersed, but to the idea that you have a big community at the end of the day. And so me and Erica and a few of our friends, we did make one with color. And the main principle was literally to empower all different types of color, all different types of Blackness, whatever that may look like to you, because it's so different and you should be accepted. But, you know, I definitely agree with Dion. Like, sometimes it's so hard because, you know, Jasmine did struggle with that. And so I think it's really on us, too, because also people always say, yeah, I didn't see Black people when I came to tour. And I always say, yeah, it's because we're so busy, because literally the same Black people are the president of, like, 6 clubs. Like, you know, like, everyone is literally doing so much. You're in every club. Erica's in BSA, Women of Color, you know, now Delta. You are literally in so many STEMist organizations that at some point it gets exhausting. So, yeah, you can't be around because you're doing so many roles. And so I think that's so important. But I think if y'all are cool with it, I can go into maybe, like, how this should move into a systematic change. And so basically, like, with all these things being said, that is why it's truly not sustainable. It's just people to be, like, living like this. Like, it has to be systematic and institutionalized. And so I'm going to share a picture, because now Zoom you can attach files, and, like, that's just so awesome, finally. So I'm going to share a picture for you all. Which one am I going to share? But okay, I'll do this first and I'll share. But basically, there's 4 dimensions of racism. And I just kind of want to talk about that with everyone today. And so basically, you have like this first layer, which is institutional, which JMU is an institution. And so it's like the policies and practices that reinforce racist standards within a workplace or organization. So, and this is like when I kind of was saying earlier, we make things harder than they have to be, because we make these institutions and we make these rules. And if you wanted to, you can change them. But like really what that means is an institution like JMU has its own rules and policies, but some of them are racist, some of them do discriminate, though they don't intend to. It's just because the system was created like that to create barriers for certain groups. And so it goes even to simplest as that. Me and Erica talk about this all the time, but professionalism. So like even your standards of how you dress at work, that actually is a systematic barrier and institutionalized racism, because it's deprived off of different values, right? Like how isn't a certain shirt professional? You know, we make these standards in our society. So it's just things like that you really have to look into in your institution, because like you can change it. And so then it's structural. And so this is multiple institutions collectively upholding racist policies and practices. And so I like to compare structural to our society, but then to make it like more at home, JMU is like the different departments, right? So structurally, these different departments, you could say, or divisions, so student affairs, academic affairs, university advancement, And there's like 3 others or 2 others, but like, okay, so all those things, a lot of people may not know what these divisions are like, but even to this day, yes, we can tell Dr. Miller to change things in student affairs, which he does, but he can only consult academic affairs. Like, he isn't the one in charge of that. And so structurally, there's multiple layers of racism, because if Dr. Miller is hiring a new role, but this person isn't, it's still competing, right? It all has to be done at one time. So then there's interpersonal. This is your 3rd level of racism, and I'll show this graphic for everybody, but this is like racist acts and microaggressions carried out from a person to another. And so if you don't know what microaggressions are, they're just comments that have like a hidden, deeper meaning to them. So like an example could be, oh, you're pretty for a Black girl. Oh, or is your hair real? Or, oh, your hair is like long. So basically you're insinuating a deeper meaning to it that sometimes are so hidden to our society, you don't like recognize the things that you're saying. So like the reason why you're probably saying that, like, oh, you're pretty for a Black girl, is probably because you were told that Black people aren't pretty, right? Or something like that. Or, oh, is your hair real? Because you're told that like we don't have long hair, or we don't have no texture. It's just, you're probably were told something in your life and now you believe it. So that's interpersonal. And so these are things, though, that like for you yourself can start identifying in your life. So maybe, yeah, you can't change the institutional level right now, but you can change the things you believe in your life and what you say to others. It's a daily practice, and everyone has to be held accountable to it, because there's so many social issues. You have to constantly be working on this every day. And so then there's internalized. And these are like the like sub hidden messages that kind of reinforce negative beliefs and actually self-hatred in individuals. And so from a Black person standpoint, an African American, these are like the message that you believe to make your decisions. So like, I'm not good enough to get that job, I'll never get it, no one looks like me. Or, oh, we don't go swimming. Or, oh, I don't play those sports, like those aren't my type of sports. And so these are now internal messages, because society has kind of defined this for you, and you never got to make that decision because they were just placed onto you. And so these are like 4 levels that as a person you really have to identify, because not everything, yes, internally we should change our thoughts, we have to as a people, but like they're not sustainable, right? So yes, I can change my my thoughts and tell Erica, okay, we're changing our thoughts, we're good to go. But until Dion changes his practices, my thoughts don't matter, because he's the one that's actually controlling these structures and institutions. And so like with my example, like Monette, we need more people like Monette, which means, in my opinion, maybe more roles like what Monette does as in admissions, which is a whole nother division. That's the one I missed earlier. And so it's like things like that that have to be institutionalized, that have to be supported, because like we were saying earlier, we're like the president of every club, we do all of these things. That's not sustainable. It's not a 1-person job. It has to be kind of embedded into your system, which is like JMU and your departments. And so if you're like, well, that's a lot, I don't even know where to start from there, I think it's like checking your own departments and your standards. So maybe look into the rules and your everyday practices and your departments. Even look at your culture. Do y'all make hidden jokes that have a lot of hidden meanings that are actually really racist and prejudiced? Do you kind of judge people for how they dress? Are you checking your standards about how you're doing that? Are you opening up? So even online meetings, are you kind of saying, okay, y'all, turn your cameras off, because you don't know where people are. You don't know if they can show your cameras. How are you doing your everyday practices in your own department? Who is in your meetings? Are you hiring more people? And are they getting the fair pay they need? Because if you want to really talk structurally, looking into those practices are really important as well. And so these are just things that you have to advocate for, because I'm going to tell the truth right now. If Black Lives Matter, then you need to advocate for every Black life. So this means Black trans life, Black people that have different social economic status, and more like that. You have to advocate not just for this ideal Black person that you think is so perfect in your head. Every single Black person matters. So how are you in your department actually advocating and making space for that? And I always like to leave this message: challenge your status quo and challenge your everyday thoughts, because your everyday thoughts are from an embedded system in your life, and kind of see where you're getting those from, because low-key you don't have to follow them. And so that's my spiel.
Yes. That was definitely very powerful what you were saying, Aaliyah. You always come with the words that we need to hear. So we appreciate that. I want to hear from people. I would like for this to be a space that other people can speak as well, because I don't want it to be us just talking to y'all all the time. Of course we're doing that, and we've been doing that, but I want it to be a space where this is a conversation and this is a dialogue, and this section, of course, because I don't want it to be Black people just telling y'all what y'all should do, and then y'all not interacting back with us. So I would like to hear from people. They have any thoughts, anything they want to share. But yeah, so we'll open the floor to y'all.
Shoot.
And it can be anyone.
Look, if don't nobody else want to say something, I got something.
Yeah, drop it in the chat.
I
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
If you can hear me. My name is Caitlin, and I work at UREC. So I'm a professional staff member, and I work in marketing and communications. And so I had a question we haven't really talked about yet, but kind of in lines with like tokenism and being treated like objects. I was curious what your personal experiences were when it comes to marketing at JMU, and have you ever been put in like what your experiences have been like. I've seen some things on Twitter. I know there was like an OPA last year, there was a tweet that was like, you know, if I ever miss my boyfriend, I just go to JMU's website. And you know, there was one person that was on like 8 different pages. So I wanted to hear maybe what some of your experiences are like, and then any maybe advice for those of us who are in marketing roles moving forward.
It's actually a running joke in one of like the largest student chats on GroupMe. It's like you can look on any given day on a JMU social media or some advertisement and see one of your friends. It's like, oh snap, you're famous. Like, look, mama, you made it. It happens. I mean, take this right here, while in all intents and purposes is really good. Aaliyah is a very familiar face. Erica is a very, very familiar face. Sierra and myself are all very familiar faces on campus. And it just so happens that we are the ones hosting this conversation. We live this normally on campus. I mean, during regular days when students are just going to classes and they see tour groups on campus, that is yet again another chance for us to be exploited. Sounds very like aggressive and mean, and it kind of is. You know, when a family colored people, it doesn't even matter whether they're black or not, when they stop me in their normal experience to see if they can actually find somebody that knows them, that would understand them, that like I have to speak on behalf of JMU at that point. And what am I going to do? Crap on my school? No. Like I go here, you know. As far as marketing goes, my suggestion is to change the you can't necessarily take it away, but change the focus from so much diversity to more inclusion. We do have to make do with what we have. I would love to increase numbers of Black students on campus and students of color in general. But if that can't happen, because it's not a very quick turnaround, what can we start doing that make sure that the people who are already here won't leave, won't drop out? I know people who have discussed wanting to leave because they didn't have enough Black people around them, or because they were always being called on in class to talk about certain experiences from the diaspora. Like, this is a real thing. So my say is focus on inclusion and focus on spaces where you're getting genuine, like authentic relationships between people, although they might be different, although intersectionality is present. I know that happened in the Duke's Leadership Center. That was a pretty genuine place to be. But that's one small place. That's my take.
Yeah, pretty much what Dion said, honestly. People will like ask us to come to certain places or be at certain like events just to be there and show face and everything, even within Siemens as well. And I would also like to like point out, I know like because Dion brought up like students coming to JMU and like staying at JMU. One of the sad things, but I mean, well, one of the things I enjoy was overnight at Madison's, but it's now changed. And that was like under SMO and through admissions, and that's an amazing program. But whenever I hosted people or even participated in the program as I was in like a senior and a junior, a lot of students, a lot of like prospective students will be like, oh, it's like nothing. Whenever they actually come here, after coming here, that they're like, oh wow, like it's more like white people than I thought, because during that weekend they are surrounded by just black people. Like there's all these programs that come on that Siemens puts on just to like be like, yes, we're here. This is what we have. But whenever they get here, it's like a totally different experience. And if like earlier what Aaliyah was saying, if say like someone's more introverted and they don't want to be a part of all that, so like where can they go and everything, and that all comes back to like the systems and everything and what's implemented at JMU, because everything diverse in my eyes just comes from Siemens. That's all I see. That's all I've seen personally, being there for a couple years. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Also, I think as long as it's intentional, I think it really is one of those things that like I think it's just so weird when you see like all the marketing and you see a black person in every picture, because in reality like that is not the case, you know. And I think that's when like it's unrealistic. And of course you want to like show other students like you know, diversity to kind of like bring them here, but I feel like that's not authentic, and I feel like that's why people get disappointed all the time, because they thought it was one way but it's really like not, you know. And so I like always say, like what Dion said is so funny, you can always see your friend on a catalog or a picture, but I think it's like the intentionality part of it. But I just think I can't wait at JMU until we can break out of just putting so much weight on CMIS and like putting diversity on CMIS, and really like looking at JMU and just seeing diversity in all areas, like what Dion was saying, like, you know, being in this organization and still seeing that diversity there, though it's not part of CMIS, but you still know you're diverse, you know. Like I think I just can't wait till we get to those levels where then it's more genuine. But I also think too, change the people that you kind of always see in the room all the time. Like I know it's, of course, if someone's like in a certain org, it's you're gonna have them representing that, of course. But like even the students, I think like on panels and town halls, I just see the same students, and including myself. And I think I even have to get to a point in my life where I just say, hey, I'm not gonna do this, but I'm gonna invite this person instead of me. Because I think people are so, they just trust us to one person, their point of view, and of course they may love our ideas, but I think in a way it's then we're not really bringing that other minority up with us that really deserves that chance to kind of be in the room in that atmosphere.
Yeah, going off, I think different voices do need to be in these forums a lot more. Invite like random students you see, but hey, like I know this that might seem weird, but like, hey, like you're black, but come here and like join us as a conversation. Like I even noticed, like, if you want to be a student ambassador, like for like I was in BSA, they would come to our meetings and ask like students in there to come because they know they need to meet like a quota or have more black people like be in it. So I feel like if more of us were just willing, but also just welcomed into the areas, they would. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. It was about, oh my gosh, I hate when it happens. But yeah.
No,
Oh wow,
I
I hate
want
when it
to
happens.
I want to pick up where you were, because that's a really good point. It's like, oh gosh. I want to catch mine. I don't want to lose mine. No, no,
It happens. Aaliyah, what did you say?
I thought
Oh, I remember.
okay, you got it. Good.
I remember. So, not to like go down like a rabbit hole, but for instance, I don't know when like the naming of like the buildings came apart. There was like one person who was on that board, and like just being on the board because I apparently like just with all that with the naming of the building came a lot of controversy, as like y'all may know. I had to do like a lot of education and stuff with it, so like that's why like, I just kind of know a lot about what happened. But you know, there's a young lady on that board, and she did identify with the minority community, and like that seemed like fitting. And a lot of people within our community that didn't really know this young lady were like really mad about like this naming and everything. It's just because we definitely need different voices. We don't just need one person on the board, because everyone has different opinions. Like my opinion can be completely different than Aaliyah's and Dion's, but like we're all still here, and we're also a part of this black community. The naming of the dorm, Paul Jennings. That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
I remembered it. I remembered it. So going back to, you're talking about stats, and I know we did talk about it at 9, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up here after this. if we can acknowledge students' Blackness during times when we're counting statistics, then we need to be mature enough to acknowledge what these decisions and things actually mean for the experiences of these Black people. I'll dumb it down. I'll dilute it even more. If you're a person that has ever said, well, I have a Black friend, or, well, this person is Black, or I've, you know, whenever you try to use one of your experiences to say you get it, you're an ally, at that point, or if you've ever done that, you shouldn't act shy when it comes to discussing this stuff outright now, because you've put yourself out there. I had somebody at my job say that she has a Dominican boyfriend who passes as Black, yet she doesn't really, the stuff that's going on in the world right now doesn't necessarily pertain to her. Well, why did you feel like it was necessary to acknowledge that you know somebody that's going through some stuff, but then not be able to stand for them? You know what I'm saying? Like, we talked about performative allyship last time, so stay away from that. That just had my heart a little heated. This is a picture off Twitter. I know it's kind of weird, but it's off Twitter. And if you notice, this is the JMU homepage, right? On there, there's chalk writing that says, say their name, no justice, no peace, right? And then in this little box right here, it says, heeding the call, President Jonathan R. Alger accepts the challenge to work together for a better tomorrow. Caitlin, you talked about tokenism, or exploiting the true work of our African-American students on campus for stunts and giggles. That's a situation right there. Like, when I'm talking about inclusion and diversity and what Aaliyah was saying and what Erica was saying, you need to link directly to who put that up, who created that, when did they do it? You know, we have backstories on lesser important stuff. We have whole articles written in the Breeze and all of these Harrisonburg communications, but when something like this happens, it's diluted. It's taken and used for somebody else's benefit. So that, you know, as harmful as this probably was meant to the person who was doing the marketing, that's a real life consequence for people who did work. Like, that's for people who did work. Can I link to the tweet? So I actually got it on a screenshot from my friend, but I
have the tweet right here. I can put it in the group chat because I just saw it.
All right. Whew. Oh, I know it's 9:13 and we're getting into a good conversation. Sierra, I'm gonna pass it off to you because I know you have some resources you want to give us. I'll say that this conversation doesn't stop, and you don't have to just have it every Tuesday. Start having it with the people in your daily lives, and then come back here on Tuesday and Thursday and whatever other events we're hosting and talk about those. We'd love to hear it. You got it.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Dion, for passing the baton over to me. So I just wanted to share I know last week I shared some resources in terms of like documentaries, podcasts, books, websites, things you can donate to, whatever. But this week I'm still gonna provide some resources that are just a little different. So one thing that you can check out on their social media is a JMU's chapter of the NAACP right now is doing a series kind of on what it's like. It's called Living in Black America, and it's just them sharing stories of theirs or anything that they want to share just from their experiences as Black people in this country. And you can check that out at I'll put their their handle in there, JMU NAACP. There's that. So go in there and check that out. You can go on there on Instagram. I don't use Twitter. I know that's weird, but you can probably check it out on Twitter as well. And so there's no particular day, just forever you can check it. And then on Thursday, there's going to be an open, honest, and needed conversation that's going to be hosted by CMIS. Dr. Miller will be joining as an active listener and an ally, and that'll be Thursday, June 11th at 8 p.m. CMIS will be holding a space for students to process their emotions, express their concerns, and share their thoughts about the issues that cause #Black Lives Matter to be absolutely necessary. These topics include, but are not limited to, anti-Black racism, police brutality, structural inequality, systemic racism, performative allyship, and their personal experiences at JMU. All students are invited to actively listen and engage in conversation, keeping in mind that we are focusing solely on the Black community at this time. If you're interested in joining for this pertinent conversation, please email Cynthia Ruff for the Zoom link. I will include her email address in here. Let me put it in there real quick. Let's see. Oh, there, Cynthia came through with it, and there it is.
It's my promo.
Yeah.
I got you.
So, and that is for anyone. Anyone is able to join. So yeah, that is open, and we would love to have people on that call. So that is Thursday, June 11th, 8 p.m. Let me put that down here. Then also on Friday, there's going to be a march. Hold on a minute. Let me pull it up right here. Also, the NAACP, our JMU's NAACP right now is just doing really great things. Of course, as they always do, but right now they've just really been on it. So there's going to be a March for Our Lives, Friday, June 12th at 3 p.m. So this is going to be a silent march from Warner Commons to Spirit Rock. So starts at 3 at Warner, marching to Spirit Rock. It's to highlight racial injustice and honor the lives we've lost due to systemic racism and police brutality. So that is something that's also on JMU NAACP's Instagram page and other social media platforms that you can check out. And then something else that has been going around, I don't know if y'all have seen it, there is a change.org petition about certain halls at JMU in terms of their names. So there are 3 Confederate general, there's 3 different halls named after Confederate generals at JMU. And so if you're interested in maybe signing that petition, I'm going to include that in here. You can check it out. But people are saying, did I even do that right? That looks kind of funny. I don't know what happened. But
I think it works.
did it work? Okay, I don't know why it looks like that. But yeah, but so that is definitely something that you can sign or even just read, see what they're trying to say. But I definitely think that that is something that can be important. Okay, it works. Okay, awesome. But yeah, so unless anybody has anything else to add, Dion, Aaliyah, Erica, thank you all so much for coming and helping to navigate this conversation. And thank you all for participating. Even if you vocally participated or even just being an active listener, that always helps. And that's always very important too. So we appreciate everyone's role in this process. But tune in next week, same time, same place. But yeah, so I wanted
to.
Yes.
I have one thing to add, if that's okay. I'm the black box right there.
I see you, girl.
Yeah, my wig is off, so I'm just gonna leave the camera on. Hey everyone, I had to do it. I again want to say thank you. I know I typed it, but say it out loud to Sierra and Erica and Aaliyah and Dion. I am so very grateful that you all choose and continue to keep choosing to advocate, even in the midst of your own pain and trauma, and a system that has never been set up to support you. So I'm very, very thankful for that. For those of us who are still on and who are listening and haven't really talked, I get sometimes needing to process, but at this point, I think we've heard these messages and these stories over and over again. So how much longer do we need to listen before we start coming up with actionables that we can do, right? So I would encourage that to be something you think about tonight and hopefully return next week to talk about. That's really important. We're not just here to, oh, there goes my mop. We're not just here to, oh, wow, that's something new. I learned something new. Like, we learn, and then what do we do with what we learn? That's the important part, right? I think that they have literally given us so many resources right at our feet. These links, I really want, part of the reason why I'm talking is so that this doesn't cut off early. Can you go ahead and click on these links, y'all, and sign these petitions? It's something very simple to do. It takes maybe 3 minutes of your time. For people who are losing their lives on the daily and are affected on the daily, if we care about students the way that we say we do, because I know deep in our hearts we do, we have to put action behind our words. That's time, that's money, that is energy. If we care about the work that Dion and Aaliyah and Erica and Sierra and several other people are doing, let us thank them verbally and through our actions. If that doesn't happen, we're gonna have to start having some one-on-one conversations and figure out ways in which, and I don't say that in a threatening way, and that sounded a little wild, excuse me, let me back up. I'm saying I'm happy to have those conversations with you because I don't want our students to be the ones who are continuously carrying the burden for us. This is our responsibility collectively. Let's work and see how white supremacy and structures have made us think a certain way and behave a certain way, and how it's impacting at least the students that we work with, if no one else. So, but I'm glad y'all are here. This is awesome. This is my first Tuesday. This is great. Okay, I'm gonna finish mopping my floor, but I appreciate you four particularly, but all of you for being here. You better go ahead, Erica. Okay, I'll mute myself.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Cynthia. You always bring a smile to everyone. And you are also doing great things and great work in your own right.
Yes. Check out Cynthia Consulting, LLC.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes. So, but thank you for those words, Cynthia. We appreciate you for everything that you do. But yeah, so that's it. That LLC, like I said, right there. There it is, period. So, hey, we got a link here. Oh, she was also on the news. So she's our celebrity. But yeah, so anyway, being cognizant of the time, please tune in next week. Like I said, same place, same time. Conquer each new day, like what's on Dion's shirt. We love to see it. But yeah, thank y'all so much. Have a good night, and we hope to see y'all next week.